Welcome to the Learner Center Collaborative Podcast. I am your host, Katie Martin, and joined today by my colleague and amazing leader, Dr. Cesar Morales. Cesar is a dedicated leader in learner-centered education with extensive experience in transforming schools and supporting educational leaders. As a partner at the Learner Center Collaborative and a former school and district leader, he has championed innovative strategies that prioritize authentic learning and community engagement. Cesar is known for his expertise in leadership development, educational transformation, creating inclusive learning environments. In addition, he's also a great human, colleague, and dad. I'm so excited to have you on the podcast today.
So happy to be here. Thank you. Thank you very much, Katie.
All right. So you recently defended your dissertation and earned your EDD at USC. So first of all, congratulations. But take us back. What are some of the experiences that have led you to be the educational leader that you are today?
I'll tell you what, I've had the joy of traversing the public education landscape, and I would say there are some notable ones. In particular, I would say my own PK-12 experience. If you can imagine, just to kind of bookend it, imagine closing out my K-12 journey with graduating with a 1.87 GPA to then turn around and earn a doctoral degree. And in between there, take on leadership roles such as starting a new high school and leading, co-leading with superintendents, a new aspiration for public education. So, a broad range of experiences that have really, really shaped how I lead, how I view the world, and the visions that I have for public education. And so within that span, I would say influential experiences would be that of being a coach, being a football, baseball coach. A lot to glean that you can pull over and transfer to being an effective leader, whether it's communication, connection with players, with colleagues, clearly defining game plan strategy, really defining what does success look like when you're not looking at the scoreboard, right? What are those behaviors? What are those dispositions? How do we command and understand our scope of scheme? And at the same time, be a good teammate, be a contributor. So that of teacher, that of coach, school leader, district leader, and also the blessing of being able to have some leadership opportunities outside of the country and learn from communities, in this case, in Central America, and bring those traditions, those insights forward to the work I get to do with Learner Centered and my amazing colleagues.
So 1.87, buddy. Like that's notable. How do you end your high school career at 1.87 and let's start there. What was happening?
A lot of fun. There was a lot of fun in high school, a lot of fun. And I would say one of the things that if I tease it out and then refocus on the work that energizes me, it is around this concept of identity. And whether it's identity as self or identity as an organization, right? Having a very, very clear understanding of who am I / who are we? Where am I going? Where are we going? How will we get there? And then how will we track our success or needs for adaptation, right? And so I would say as a high school student, I did walk off that football field that I had gotten so intimately close to, spending so many hours there, but walking off that graduation stage with really no clear direction. It is a symptom for me of not necessarily having a tight connection to my learning journey. I didn't see myself in the journey. I was just, it was a vehicle that I needed to take. But I would say authentic learning experiences weren't necessarily at the core of my experience. So short answer, a lot of fun, but also a lot of disconnect between what was taking place at school and then even at home, how we defined, in Spanish, you use the word ser educado, which means, how you carry yourself, how you represent your family. And so that is sort of the bar of what it means, to be a good person, a good family member, a good representative of the family. But I didn't see myself so much in my education experience. So I would say the disconnect,
Hmm.
coupled with a lot of fun, can get you to a 1.87 GPA.
So when was it that you started getting more serious about your education and traversing that journey to become an educator?
Yeah, I'm gonna give you another chuckle. So where that crucible, if you will, took place, out of all places in the United States, it took place in Southern Missouri State University, located in Joplin, Missouri. And that's when I came across Professor Peterson. And what Professor Peterson, a Spanish professor, and that's what I was majoring in. Not I think, but I know what he developed in me was this sense of, in learning your language, you're learning about you, you're learning about your ancestors, you're learning about your identity. And in that process, I feel like I got my feet on the ground. I was then able to establish an ultra clear vision, which was becoming a Spanish teacher and a football coach. But that work around the relationship that I had with this professor really allowed me to say or question, who am I?
Mhm.
And what is the vision that I have for myself? And then let's design that game plan to get there. And I feel like just it was a big experience, but I see it show up in so many things, when I think of my accomplishments, both as a father, as a husband, as a student, as a leader. It starts with really having ultra clarity on who it is you're seeking to become,
Yeah.
and then creating, operationalizing a plan to yield that outcome.
Yeah, I hear that so much from you in all that you do. As we were talking yesterday about family and sports, like I hear that come through, like where are we trying to go?
Yeah,
And your experience has helped you be what it sounds like, a better coach, a better father, a better leader, because you know how critical that is for people to have that clarity of where they're going.
absolutely. And the other part that I want to tease out in that experience that I had with the professor who really, allowed me to look inward, is the power of relationships, right? The power of when someone believes in you,
Mhm.
and in turn you believe in them, and you believe in us and we. um, there are very few things that cannot be accomplished, in my opinion. And so it starts with relationships, it starts with trust, it starts with being shoulder to shoulder, seeing a common horizon, and then again creating, co-creating, operationalizing a plan to accomplish that horizon. So a lot of connections that go from
Mhm.
personal to what I would call, whether you call it organizational psychology, organizational, change, whatever it might be, but it starts with connection, it starts with relationship, it starts with trust.
Well, so that leads me to kind of my where I was thinking about you at Sage Creek. So you got to be the founding principal, Sage Creek High School in Carlsbad here in Southern California. How old is that school now? When was
So we opened 2013, 14.
okay?
So just had its 10-year anniversary. And I'll tell you what, the beauty of it is that my daughter now attends, as a freshman. And one of my biggest joys, professionally, personally, is going to her back to school night and listening to the priorities the teachers were communicating. What I did not hear were about the rules. What I did not hear were about the expectations, if you will. Those are important.
Hmm.
What I did hear, which is an ethos that I'm proud to have, um, co-created with amazing leaders, was this space where you of who you are belong here, and we're here to grow you. And it's very much the ethos that we have at Learner Center. We're gonna see you and your intersectionalities. We're gonna grow you, and we're committed to your journey. There is no, set path that you need to travel, but really we want you to embrace this journey because it is about self-discovery. as you start to put together that blueprint of what happens post high school. And so to hear, in this case, it was 4 out of the 5 teachers I had personally been involved in hiring,
That's awesome.
um, to have that language, that way of being, that environment created, it was a proud moment, to be honest with you. It was a very proud moment.
I mean, that's a dream in some ways. We think about like designing a school that your own kids are going to go to, and
Yes.
maybe you didn't know that in 2013 that Juliana was going to be a freshman there, 10 years later, but to be able to design something that your own kids can benefit from and the rest of the community gets to have those experiences too is amazing.
It's a blessing. It's amazing. Um, and it's also the reality that each and every leader that is in a role,
Yeah,
regardless of capacity, teacher, campus supervisor, principal, assistant principal, we are creating spaces where we want our own, that should be the floor.
sure.
We are creating spaces where we want our own children to grow. And in this particular case, I got to see it full circle. And so um, proud dad, proud professional, proud Carlsbad community member.
I love that. So take us back to 2013 or even 2012, maybe in the pre-planning. You have the charge of opening a new school for the Carlsbad community, and you're working with the team. You talked a lot about co-design. We know great cultures don't happen by chance. It wasn't because it was a beautiful building. It wasn't because it was a brand new school that it turned out to be this amazing place for kids to learn and thrive. So, what steps did you take as the leader to co-design or that culture so that 10 years later it's still living in the ethos?
Yeah. I think the additional context I'd like to add is for those of us who were leading school systems in those days of 2011, 2012, there were significant budget cuts taking place. And so here we were, a team launching a new high school that was surrounded by campaigns around delaying the school opening because of budget cuts, as well as furlough days that had been enacted the year before. So it wasn't rosy. It wasn't, the perfect conditions. It was intense conditions. But I would say what supported a successful launch was clearly defining our constraints. And what I mean by our constraints is we started by what are our guiding statements, our mission, our vision, our values. I didn't know it at the time, but what we also created was what we now call a portrait of a learner. Um, and by doing that, and you have to imagine the staff that I got to work alongside in the development of this vision, all these folks were working full time in their teaching roles, and we were meeting every other week. I believe it was a Monday night. People have kids, people have families, but there was this commitment. And what I would say contributed significantly to our success was getting ultra clear on who we were going to become, being ultra clear on the expectations and the parameters or the design elements that our board had created. And by establishing those clear constraints, both that we created and that we were stepping into, it really allowed us to maximize our creativity. And as you're opening up, as we all know, schools are there's big business around schools. What that allowed us to do was to be very confident in what we said no to. So when you're opening new schools, vendors knock at your door, send you emails about the next greatest product, the next greatest software, the next greatest technology. And so as a result of becoming very clear, we were able to really hyper focus on our big vision and then establish where we were going to start the immediate next academic year. And so it brought a laser focus to the energy, minimize confusion, maximize collaboration, and really truly enhance trust in one another, because there were so many moving parts that once we established who we were, where we were going as an organization, each department was then empowered to then define their vision. And all of a sudden you can cascade and really distribute the leadership as long as you have these feedback loops and times to sync up. So um, that's a long-winded response to being ultra clear on who you are, who you want to become, because then those simple decisions make so many decisions for you.
Yeah, I want to underscore a few things because, leaders are busy. There's, a million things that you can spend your energy on. And what you highlighted seems so obvious that clarity on where we're going, really clear on our guiding principles, allowing you to make those decisions. Uh, Sometimes people forget or skip over that step, and it becomes, they can have to be reactive to every need and everything that comes instead of having a really clear filter. And the other thing that you talked about is distributed leadership, right?
Mhm.
Big high school, you can't do it all on your own as a single leader. You can't carry the culture and the needs of all of that. So being able to have those leaders in many different places who are supporting that
Yeah,
made a huge difference, I imagine.
absolutely. Yes, yes. And the other thing that made a big difference is that once we were clear about the direction, we were also humble enough to know that we could learn from others who had traveled this trek, and visiting either schools that had recently opened and visiting schools that had signature programs, signature practices that we were interested in, also added both to our confidence that we could co-construct, co-design something that was going to be relevant and meaningful to those we serve, which is our students in our community. And so being humble enough to say, I need to learn from others, right? We have great people at the table, um, but there are a lot of talented folks around us, both in state and out of state. And so approaching it with a very strong learner mindset was a gift to our approach, I would also add.
So you mentioned a few of those core practices. What are some of the hallmarks that are still in place that make Sage Creek a unique learning community?
Yeah, I would say a signature piece, and now I get to also hear it, if you will, from my daughter. Um, a we wanted in our design intention is we wanted a space, and we would reference for those of you who used to watch Cheers, right? Like a place where everybody knows your name, right? And this concept of be you as our header, be you, be your best, kicked off by saying like who you are, your quirkiness, whatever you're bringing to this campus is embraced, right? And I those that was an energizer because as a principal, being at the front gate and welcoming folks each and every day and embracing, we all have different morning experiences, different week experiences, different lived experiences, but to signal to each and every person, including the adults, like who you are matters and we embrace you, right? And then the second piece around be you, be your best, we all have we all have different energies at different times, right? So your best is different, and your best is not only different at a personal level, but your best is different compared to other people. So we're not here to compare you to other people. It's about you self-discovering who you are, you self-actualizing your potential, and then us as a campus maximizing the ability for us to personalize your journey in these 4 years that you're here. And so I know we were talking on the car ride to a partner yesterday, and just listening to my daughter recently process a scheduling opportunity, if you will. And what essentially happened is she had a gap in her schedule, and her vision for herself is studying something around the sciences and the arts. And instead of just taking like a TA position or just some random course, she says, you know what, I want to take the first part of chemistry. And so, as a parent, you're like, well, you got chemistry here, but then if you don't do the second part until next year, is that going to hinder you? But we jumped on the call with the department head, and essentially as we should adults, is let's ask questions of the students. What is your vision? What are your priorities? Where do you feel your weaknesses are? And through that conversation, my daughter was, and she did all the talking and asking, but she was able to say, this is what feels right for me. And this schedule that we're creating is here to help me on the path that I'm seeking. And then to have her close out the conversation and communicate to her, to her counselor, here's what I've done. Here's the research I've done. Here's my vision and here's my decision. I need your support with this? And to have a response come back and saying, yep, it's not conventional what you're asking,
Right.
but it sounds like you've done your due diligence and it fits what you're seeking to accomplish. So being able to meet our students where they are, both on a personal as well as your aspirations, your ambitions, your strengths, your weaknesses.
Well, and I love that she was able to find resources, have mentors at home, but also in school, counseling,
Yeah,
department head to get information. And she's not locked in. And this is part of where we see the future of education going, right?
absolutely.
Young people understanding themselves, having that ambition and being able to navigate that path. It is
Absolutely.
amazing to see a ninth grader have the skill set, but also the opportunity to exercise that agency within a system with adults and have people listen and empathize with her and be curious instead of shut it down because this is the way it's always been done and this is the path you have to be locked into. That gives me a lot of hope for what we can see and how we can help make high schools much more flexible and learner centered.
Absolutely. I would add another signature program, if you will, um, that exact again going back to because we defined who we wanted to become,
Mhm.
and we wanted our success for us was beyond standardized tests, AP pass rates, and what have you. And because we had a very clear vision, and again, we designed without even knowing a learner profile,
Mhm.
really defining the skills, knowledge, and dispositions we wanted our students to clearly develop as they were with us and command, right? Once that cap and gown melted off and they launched into the world. And because we had a very tight aspiration, it gave many teachers an opportunity to spark what is possible to
Yep.
get to these outcomes. One of those, a pitch that I got from two teachers was this idea around a genius project. And what I would always convey to our team is if you're approaching a conversation with me and on your walk to my office or wherever we're going to meet, because we would often meet in the cafeteria or outdoor tables or what have you, and if you're processing of what do I need to say to get the outcome I want, then you're really being clever. You're really trying to figure out how does this work for me or my department. Whereas if you're coming and you're looking at our mission, our vision, our profile, uh, our initiatives for the upcoming years, and you're making those connections, like that's a responsible pitch. You're trying to see how you can better our organization. And so, long story short, I had two teachers pitch this idea around a genius project, which essentially is a 2-year commitment, a 2-year experience for juniors and seniors,
Mhm.
where the idea is to make an impact on your community, do learning beyond the classroom, and really learn something that you are passionate about, right?
Mhm.
And so by doing that, they engaged the whole community. They pulled in our PTA for resources and support. They pulled in our school foundation for resources and support. And that's time. That could be money as well. And then the things that came out of that when you give students agency, time, and space. I mean, there just to mention a couple. I remember one of our students designed a senior prom, a senior as in a dance at a senior center.
Oh, I
And so
love
if you
that.
think through it, that includes advertising, that includes getting a volunteer DJ, refreshments, coordinating, then getting her own friends to help with the volunteering for setup and breakdown. And so you just think through all the logistics that go into
Mhm.
creating an event and then taking pictures of these elderly dressed to their nines, having fun. Another example, one of our students renamed our street. It was a generic name, and they, went to City Hall, went through all the permitting, did the fundraising, and now it's called Bobcat Way. Running sports programs. So there are many different examples where we say we're gonna give you protected time.
Hmm.
We're gonna give you adults to serve as mentors. We call them accountability buddies, and really let you run with it. And so, and I'm gonna say it wasn't easy to launch because all of a sudden in a community who was used to GPAs denoting success, tell me where we're going to be tested on versus this is going to be messy and there's going to be some self-guided and there's going to be some support. It really changed what we define as academic success, right? And so that's another example of when you have a very clear focus, very clear destination, the creativity that immerses amongst the adults and the students in a school environment.
Yeah, and navigating that, because as you said, the pushback, because you have a clear vision and because you're clearly articulating what your vision is, you can help bring the community members and families
Yeah,
along, even though they don't quite understand it.
yeah, yeah.
And that project is still in existence. I was there
Yes.
a couple years ago, probably two
Yes.
years ago now, and was able to actually see kids in their English classes developing their writing to articulate what they had learned, and creating their TEDx talks, which was pretty cool experience.
Yes. Yes. It's amazing. It's amazing how the potential, and I'm not only going to focus on the students, the potential that everybody in a system has when there's clarity and there's permission to tinker. And one of the things we were really big on, we need to fail forward. Like we need to push the status quo. It's messy, but we're going to celebrate that journey.
Awesome. So taking that experience and your work at Sage Creek and all of you had done leading up to that, you now get to work with school leaders, district leaders around the country and in different partnerships to really shift to a more learner-centered model and keep evolving their own practices and pushing forward. So what are some of the strategies and practices that you now find most helpful in supporting district and school leaders to drive their own change?
Yeah. So I would say, I know whether my personal journey or my professional journey, I keep going back to clarity. Define the constraints, right? You're not going to be everything for everyone. Define how you're going to define success, define the signatures of your ecosystem.
Hmm.
And so in our case, I know once a system co-creates that vision for learners,
Hmm.
right? Their portrait of a learner. These are the high priority things. That starts to shape the ethos in and of itself. What I learned in my journey at Sage Creek is that that's not enough, right? A non-negotiable to accompany it, definitely need your mission, vision, your values. You need a pedagogical framework. You need a learning model. These are the threads that are going to go through each and every classroom, regardless of discipline, regardless of grade level. They need to be broad enough, but still clear enough.
Right.
What does sound instruction look like on our campus? Because what that then does is it energizes the time, the energy, the resources, the focus, the parameters.
Hmm.
And again, going back to my own experience as a school leader, it also maximizes the level of creativity that everybody can contribute in growing the work. And so having those very, very, very clear parameters and visions and ambitions defined and the big pieces co-created
Right.
um, really energizes a school system.
And I want to really underscore the maximizing creativity in the classroom. And I say this all the time that if a superintendent or a principal is like, we're transforming education, just figure it out. And I just, you know it when you see it, that doesn't give the specificity to teachers to be able to understand what that goal is. They're not mind readers,
Right,
right?
right,
They're all working from their own perception of what it should look like. So being able to articulate, this is what we want learning to look like, this is how we're going to support you, this is where we're going to celebrate you, and this is how we're going to allocate resources and create structures, can really help teachers make those shifts much quicker, and with much more confidence, because they're not
Absolutely.
guessing and trying to figure out, is this okay, am I
Absolutely.
going to get in trouble?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I know we're going to get into this a little bit later, but this concept of um, collective efficacy, right? This concept of like we can manifest the outcomes we want and keep those ones that we don't, want from happening, from taking place, right? Like it really not only energizes, but it builds this confidence, this collective confidence on this aspiration is doable. Like I can see it, I can feel it, I can taste it. And to your point, when we're celebrating those bright spots on the journey there, it's fueling the system, it's fueling all of those leading in different capacities towards that aspiration. And so, yes, it's clarity. I mean, there's an old saying, clarity is kindness, right? Clarity is kindness, right? And
Mhm.
we as humans, we always want to be successful, but give me the GPS coordinates, right? Tell me where we're headed.
Right. So we are going to get into this. We're going to talk about your research. You, again, just finished at USC, uh, went through, a bunch of your own courses, but also doing your own research. So you did decide to focus on this idea of collective efficacy. So tell us a little bit about, one, why collective efficacy, and kind of what that means. Give us the specifics there, and then what did you actually do in your study?
Yeah, so there were a couple. I mean, I feel so blessed because this, yes, it's a dissertation. Yes, it's a lot of pages. Yes, it's a lot of energy. But to have had the opportunity to it personally resonate both with me of the work I'm interested in and the work we get to do as learner centered collaborative, just having that intersection, it just brought joy. It was fun to, I hate, it may sound weird, but it was fun to do this work because essentially I was field testing a service that we provide,
Yeah.
right? And so I was also felt like I was contributing to our team, to see what might it look like if we look under the cover,
Mhm.
after folks have experienced this journey. um, and so I just want to make sure I'm framing up. You asked two questions. What were there were
Well, real quick, I want to go back to, before I ask those questions again. What you just said should be the like core of our K-12 system, doing
Yes,
work that matters to the
yes,
world, to my
yes,
community, and to me personally. So
indeed,
I love that. And
indeed.
I had those opportunities in my own graduate programs. And I'm always thinking, like, how do we get that into the K-12 system so we don't have to wait to do this meaningful, rich work that gives us a sense
Yeah,
of purpose?
absolutely.
So, given that, my questions were, why collective efficacy? Just start there. Why collective efficacy did you choose to focus on this in particular? And what specifically do you mean when you say collective efficacy, just for people who might not be as familiar with that term?
Yeah, so for us in education, this concept of collective efficacy, in particular teacher collective efficacy, has been presented as a fundamental variable, or as a driving variable, correlated with high student achievement. So if we have high teacher collective efficacy, it is correlated with high student achievement, right? And so I wanted to unpack that, right? I really wanted to understand, A, what are the constructs, and what are the drivers? So if I am a leader at whatever level, if this variable is highly influential of student achievement, then shoot, might I want to figure out how to positively influence it to then in turn, right, influence academic achievement. And so, in a nutshell, after doing the literature review and what have you, if we boil down, what is this concept of collective efficacy? And so within collective efficacy as a concept, there are three core elements. So one is this sense of collective purpose, like you for learner centered, we know where the organization is going. Like we know what our goals are, we know what our vision is, And anybody who's on this team knows that we are continuously connecting everything to our goals, connecting everything to our mission, connecting everything to our values. And so one of the three key components is having this clear understanding of where we're going as an organization, right? The second one is having this sense of capability, meaning we have the people, we have the resources to carry out the mission, if you will, of our team. And then the third one is the sense of collective resilience, meaning in school systems, stuff happens, curveballs come at you. And so as a team, you feel like you have, as a collective team, you have what it takes to weather the storm, right? Like you're going to get through the challenges. And so these three concepts, collective purpose, collective capability, and collective resilience, are the key constructs of what collective efficacy is in turn. And so the beauty of it is that there are ways that you can positively influence that. So just want to first start with, like, when we're talking about collective efficacy, in my research, these are the three constructs that create collective efficacy. And I do want to say that even if you have a group of team members who they themselves have high levels of self-efficacy, that does not in turn create a team with high levels of collective efficacy. And we've seen this, right? You have professional teams with astute players. That does not necessarily mean that they're going to create an astute team.
It goes back to the culture that we were talking about, whether it's on a sports team or it's in a classroom, a school, or a district, that just because you, again, feel like I am highly capable as an individual, being able to work with other team members and have that collective sense of efficacy is so powerful, and helps move everyone forward. It's so important. So what'd you find as you did this research? What did you find?
So entering the research, if you will, there were two key questions. Question number one is, after co-constructing a framework for the future, and for us, what that means is having clear mission, vision, values, having a portrait of a learner, and having a learning model. So after creating that, co-constructing that, and I can unpack that a little bit, but after co-constructing a framework for the future, how did district and school leaders rate their sense of collective efficacy in shifting to a learner-centered paradigm, right? And then the second question was, after creating or co-constructing a framework for the future, how did school and district leaders describe their sense of collective efficacy in shifting towards a learner-centered paradigm? So the first one was quantitative, just survey, and then the second one was qualitative. And so on the quantitative, on a rating scale of 5, all the score, when we look at the three constructs, so for example, collective capability, meaning questions like, our ability to work together makes me very optimistic about the future of this organization. So like, we have the people, we have what it takes. The team rated themselves 4.4 out of 5, right? So there was a strong belief. And it isn't just about collective efficacy. It's about collective efficacy in shifting to a learner-centered paradigm.
And right? Just to clarify, this is a district team. So you're looking at central office leaders, school leaders, really thinking about their ability to make these shifts.
Absolutely. And thank you for bringing that up. So context, this is a Southern California K-8 school system. We'll call it a medium-sized school district, call it between 15 and 20,000 students. And the sample were school leaders, meaning principals, executive cabinet, meaning superintendent, assistant superintendents, as well as directors who were in the ed services side of the house, if you will. And so that's where the responses are coming from. And so reconnecting. So with regards to collective capability, the team rated themselves 4.4 out of 5. With regards to collective purpose, questions like, this organization is confident about its future, or we are certain about what we will accomplish together as an organization, 4.4 out of 5. And then the third one around collective resilience, which included questions like, people in this organization can take on any challenge. This organization is full of strength, energy, and optimism, rated themselves 4.3 out of 5. And so all very, very strong
This
responses
is
or ratings.
this is something so powerful because when you see the rhetoric, when you talk here about, school leadership, how difficult it is, people, in and out of positions, to be able to see a team. And I don't think that their scores were here a couple years ago, right? To be able to see
Mhm.
a team who has this kind of collective efficacy about their future and about this work is just so it's so powerful. I hear it and I see it, but to have the
Mhm.
research that really shows it is
Yeah,
pretty exciting.
absolutely. And when we unpack a little bit further, I do want to hone into the power and influence of a district leader, in this case, the district superintendent, and the ability of the superintendent to cast a crystal clear vision,
Hmm.
to have a deep understanding of the shifts that were taking place and are taking place, and to have been at the table for the co-construction process immensely influences all of these constructs, because people have not only belief in themselves, but a deep belief in the organization, a deep belief in the district leader.
Hmm.
And so goes back to the influence of leadership, in particular, in this case, the superintendent. And so we can unpack that a little bit in a little bit. But yes, like amazing rating, self-rating, self-assessment on the part of the team here.
So, not to get us into more research, but maybe I'm just thinking, let's play that forward as these school leaders now are going through the redesign process and the schools are taking this district vision and framework and really operationalizing it at the school level in a way that makes sense to them, much like your story about Sage Creek. Looking forward to actually getting to the understanding of teacher efficacy
Yeah,
in those schools once that clarity translates to the opportunities at the school level, which we
yeah,
know is absolutely critical to make this shift. Right,
yeah,
district is necessary to align, the vision and resources and support schools, but we got to get to the school level. So I'm excited for
yeah.
the next phase of this research, maybe to see what we find at the school level.
Well, I can tell you, even in this research, what I gleaned from both the quantitative and qualitative analysis is that because the direction of the district is so clear, and because of the superintendent doing these two simple things: one, staggering the entry points, if you will. So it was voluntarily opened up to a system of about, call it low 20s, saying in the next 5 years, each school is going to go through a redesign. But you can volunteer to start with cohort one. So just allowing that ability to volunteer was huge.
Mm-hmm.
And the second thing, so in that is ultra clear direction on where we're going. Where you enter and when you enter, you have some leeway, but we're going in this
It's
direction.
happening.
The other piece that the superintendent that I got to witness in the superintendent's kickoff, so 1,000 people in the audience, he's referencing the framework, and the superintendent closes out the welcome back convening by explicitly communicating to every person in the audience. And it may sound simple, but the simple sentence of, I give you permission to be creative, right? And
Yeah.
so with him having just presented, here are the parameters, here are the constraints. We're
Mm-hmm.
shooting towards these whole learner outcomes. We are committed to providing these learning experiences, regardless of school, grade. Here are our values, here's our mission, here's our, like, very ultra clear. And I give you permission to be creative within these constraints, right?
Mm-hmm.
Amazing.
Amazing.
That, yeah.
And given what so many of us have experienced in our own K-12 education and through an era of No Child Left Behind where there's a command and control, that permission is necessary and it's needed often, right? For teachers and school leaders and district leaders to hear you have permission, I trust you, is,
Absolutely.
and these are our goals. So
Absolutely.
it's really cool.
Absolutely.
Really
And
cool.
then the qualitative findings, three main things surface. One, many schools have mission, visions, values, and many times they're dormant, many times they're outdated, many times they were created by a cluster of folks in an office. What came out of this research was, by creating those outcomes, that portrait of a learner,
Mhm.
by creating the learning model, folks, the superintendent had used this concept around um, unleashing the unlimited potential of learners. It's not verbatim, um, and it was seen across the district. It was known across it, but nobody really could operationalize it. Like, what does this look like, right?
Mhm.
As a result of creating this framework for the future, it became operationalized. Like, people could see it, they could feel it, they could gauge, are we getting there? Are we not? Right. And so that was one of the outcomes, was folks feel like, okay, I get it, I see it, and I can lead into it. The second thing was that the co-construction process absolutely mattered. And so this particular system had a design team of about 60 participants, which included labor partners, school leaders, classified staff, certificated staff, executive cabinet, directors, parents,
Mhm.
board members, all coming together, defining those whole learner outcomes, the priority whole learner outcomes, really putting together their learning model and making it theirs.
Mhm.
And what some folks described it as, this is our social promise, our social commitment to our community, right? Because that whole process started by listening to learners first. We did student forums and really started to elevate from the students what's working, what's not, and what are they not seeing that they really want as part of their school experience. And so that design thinking workflow, co-construction, really, really mattered to the leaders as far as making this meaningful and making this tangible.
Yeah, what you just said, I think, is important, in a world where superintendents don't stay 10 to 15 years in a district,
Right.
but the community is there, the kids are there, and
Yeah.
the teachers and principals are often there. That this isn't a vision that is brought in by a new superintendent and held by a superintendent. It is led from the superintendent's
Yeah.
office, but it is a community vision and a community
Mhm.
promise that will withstand one single individual. And I think that's a really important thing for communities to feel like we're not just going to be at the whim of whoever comes in as superintendent. We
Yes.
have this promise that we're going to fulfill to our community.
Absolutely. And the one thing that I will also add to that is, imagine the superintendent and executive cabinet, as these sessions are facilitated, there are times when they are talking with parents, there are times when they are talking with the labor partners, and they are there shoulder to shoulder, side by side, co-creating, meaning making,
Yep.
designing, prototyping, testing. That all contributes to the buy-in, that all contributes to the commitment, the collective commitment. Um, and so participation and engagement by those executive team members it is an investment in the long journey.
Awesome. Was there a third? Did we get to all three in the?
The third one, and it's what this is going to do is reconnect us back to when you asked me, what changed, what shifted, right? As a,
Mhm.
graduating high school with that awesome GPA, and then leading and opening high school. And that was the third one, was the enactment of transformational leadership. And if we boil down transformational leadership to three key components, one is, as a leader, being able to cast a very clear and confident vision,
Mhm.
being able to articulate, here's where we're going. Your body language matters, your words matter. And so that communication ability and that vision casting is a key component of transformational leadership. The second piece is enacting a plan, like having clarity. What are the milestones? What does our journey look like? Second key component of transformational leadership. And thirdly, as I referenced earlier, explicitly giving people permission to be
Mhm.
creative. casting a vision, enacting a plan, and explicitly giving people permission to be creative, that is what surfaced as a result of co-creating the framework for the future, clearly defining the vision for the system, um, that led to these high levels of collective efficacy across district and school leaders.
Well, thank you for doing the research, for being able to articulate it so clearly, but you can just tell your passion, and I know how much you, this isn't just a research project. This
Yeah,
is your life's work. This is what you really believe, and continue to work with so many of our partners to be able to live out in systems, various types of systems across our country. So
yeah,
thank you.
it's a joy. It's a true joy.
It is. And it's possible, right? So that's the thing, is it is possible, and it's happening.
Yes,
We're
indeed,
seeing this shift happen in many different places.
absolutely.
All right. We're going to finish up with rapid fire. I know you're really excited for these. So, first question. Given all we talked about today and all that's possible, what is one thing we should stop doing in education?
We should stop, and this is going to sound weird, we should stop not listening to learners when we're designing for them.
Yeah, great. What is one thing we should start doing?
We should have an ultra clear vision of how we design, of how we define success for our ecosystems, fully acknowledging that communities are distinct and different. And so we need to nonetheless have a clear vision for our community.
Yeah, local accountability. I feel
Mhm.
like we're going to see a lot more of that, which is great. What should we keep doing?
We should keep sharing and growing in this work. We're not there yet. There are a lot of pockets of success. Let's find them, let's share them, let's amplify them.
Yes, yes, yes. Now that you've finished your dissertation, you've got some free space. What are you focusing on learning right now?
What I am focusing on learning is continuing refining my craft as a facilitator and a thought partner to support our partners in this work.
Appreciate that. Thank you. You're amazing at it. Uh, what's something that many people might not know about you?
Well, I know the folks on our team know this, but I am fired up about the upcoming snowboarding season.
Oh,
A lot of people may not know, but I am looking forward to hitting the slopes here soon.
I might see you up there one of these days. Do you have a favorite quote or saying?
One of the ones that hovers around is you cannot talk yourself out of something you behaved yourself into.
Ooh, it's an important one. All right, two more. What are you grateful for right now?
My family, my family.
Morning beach walks,
Morning
lots of
beach
good
walks.
things.
Yeah, they're right up there as number 2 and 3, but family, family.
Awesome. All right, close us out with your hope for the future of education.
My hope for the future of education is that our learners, both our students and our adults, get to show up into our learning environments as themselves and are challenged and intrigued to really put their ideas out there to test them to see what's possible.
I love it. I am so lucky to get to work with you and to be in partnership as we do this really amazing work. So thanks for being here, and thanks for all you do.
Thank you very much. Appreciate you.